Oh. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Jared and Owen, how are you doing?
Very well. You're having the time of your life?
Yeah, I put up a tweet about, I don't know if you've ever seen Bart and Milhouse when they go crazy on the squishies in The Simpsons.
Yes.
That's what the World Cup signifies to me. It's Bart Simpson going crazy on that squishy, that moment when he has the sip of the squishy for the first time and goes absolutely mad. And that's the feeling I'm getting every single second I'm out here in Moscow and elsewhere in Russia. Even though I'm not really displaying that right now outwardly, but internally, I can guarantee you that's how I'm feeling.
Right, that's class. And it can only have been helped by the fact that Russia are still alive, and your footage from the streets of Moscow yesterday, pretty remarkable as well.
Yes, and I spoke to a lady who's actually from here, and she said that, and she's young, she's in her early 20s, and she said she's never seen celebrations like it. So that just goes to show you. I was going through it yesterday. I was trying to think of moments in Russian history. Yuri Gagarin, 1980 Olympics, maybe the fall of communism, but I can't really think of moments when the spotlight of the whole world in an open way is on Russia and Moscow celebrating this way. And I think it'll do huge wonders if they can capitalize on it and build on it. It's one of those things. I remember 1990, I was 11. And after crying on the sheepskin rug when David O'Leary dispatched the penalty against Romania, I just remember, though, at that time, looking at the news footage and everything as a young lad, the streets of O'Connell Street completely and utterly empty. And then we had the parties, the Walkinstown roundabout and everything. But I suppose it's such a beautiful thing to imagine that you're expected to lose with grace. Vladimir Putin doesn't even turn up. Medvedev turned up. And then you win. You win with guts. You win with the fact that the other team implodes. You win on penalties. Your goalkeeping hero Akinfeev with paying homage to Lev Yashin. And then what do we all decide to do? We all just decide to just get out on the streets and start driving and start beeping our horns and then start hanging out of cars. It's just, I remember, when you're a young lad, you're thinking, okay, well, can I put my head out the window of a car or out the window of a train? And you kind of peek your head out the window. But everybody was actually, it's like something out of the Dukes of Hazzard. They were hanging out the cars, sitting on the sides of the cars at high speed. And the beeping just would not stop. And yesterday was very sedate and was very kind of calm after the storm. But Sochi will be I won't be here on Saturday because I'll be in Samara, but it'll be some party in Moscow on Saturday, the fan fest and everything, when they play Croatia.
Yeah, Sochi very hot. Obviously, the Croatians have apparently started to arrive. The Croatians are there to try and acclimatise to the heat a couple of days in advance. And if you're Russia, you don't fear Croatia at this point of the tournament.
You don't know. You're playing. It's almost like you're playing with house money now. You're in bonus territory. You're going home with a profit. You're playing with house money, and even if you lose the next time, you're not going to have a bad night at the casino. You're going to have a great night at the casino, and you're going to remember how good it was. So they're in bonus territory. Croatia's midfield and a more direct style with Mandzukic up front, I think they're going to cause Russia problems. I think anybody can make that argument, but the beauty and unpredictability of sport is we just don't know. We cannot say with 100% certainty, lads, that Croatia will win on Saturday. That is the great thing about this World Cup. Once again, epitomised by Japan and Belgium yesterday, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, some of these last 16 games you figured might be a bit one-sided or not be great. And, okay, so the Croatia-Denmark game wasn't great, but ultimately there's unbelievable drama in extra time and then in the penalties. I mean, I think the Belgium-Japan game will rank as one of those all-time World Cup games because a team goes 2-0 up and loses, and it just happens so rarely. Also when it's a team like Japan, who, again, didn't even expect, or we certainly didn't expect them to get out of the group.
1970 was the last time it happened in the World Cup. That's a long time ago when England played West Germany and lost their world title. I thought Belgium were arrogant. I think that in the first half they were almost expecting to get the goal. That didn't happen, and then Inui scoring that beautiful goal to put Japan 2-0 up, and you're thinking Japan actually play good football. and I was writing them off in a pretty damning way, and it was obviously coming back to haunt my mind. But I just think they played football, but I just thought they were a little bit naive. The goalkeeper was Kawashima was flapping around for that goal that let Vertonghen score back into it, and then Fellaini was a good introduction, brought a bit of physical presence to Belgium, scored that header, made it 2-2, and Japan were still going for it at the end, Kesuke Honda, but got caught on the break, and both substitutions scored. To be fair to Martinez, both players that came on scored. And a beautiful dummy from Lukaku to set up Nasser Chadli, who's hardly played any football at West Brom all season. So Chadli and Fellaini, but Kevin De Bruyne had a quiet game. I wonder about their 3-5-2. I wonder, is it that effective? I'd love to see De Bruyne further up the pitch. I don't know if the fullbacks are making any positive impact, and I felt at times Japan had them down the flanks, and I suppose Belgium have to improve, and I think that being the underdog will favour them against Brazil, but you have to admire the way Brazil, we're forgetting about the Neymar antics for a second, you have to admire the way Brazil within themselves defeated Mexico and saw them off pretty comfortably yesterday in Samara, where once again I think heat is an issue here actually. De Bruyne looks really affected by the heat. I think heat is an issue here that's probably been a little bit understated. Won't be an issue for Colombia and England today, but places like Samara, places like Sochi, places like Rostov, I think heat is a factor here.
Just on the Japan concession of the goal that made it 3-2 to Belgium, like, it would be patronising to suggest that Japan didn't mess up really badly there, didn't it? Like, if it was any other team, we'd be sitting here saying that it is an absolute disgrace the way they allowed them to be countered in such a fashion. Like, and I'm not singling out Honda here, I'm just saying that it was a full systems failure by Japan, and like, as I say at the start, it would be patronising to suggest that it wasn't a hugely significant mess up by everybody in a Japanese jersey last night.
Well, first of all, there seems to be a bit of sympathy for plucky Japan. There shouldn't be after the Poland game when they were playing it around, hoping to go through on a better disciplinary record than Senegal. So I don't have any sympathy for them. You play to win. You play in the spirit of the game, and yeah, they were naive. I said on Twitter that they were naive. People are going, what did you expect them not to go for it? No, you expect them at 2-0 up to alter their play a little bit, knowing that Belgium are going to come at them and maybe sit back a bit and not play at trying to break at the pace they were trying to break at. They were completely exposed. I mean, De Bruyne ran 60 yards. Meunier was completely on his own down the right hand side, and then they're queuing up to finish it, and Chadli did finish it. So yeah, it was a complete malfunction, a systems failure, and naivety on Japan's part, who have never reached a quarter final at the World Cup, and I think that showed. So this plucky stuff, I'm not buying it. This is the big leagues now. We're in the big leagues, and if England go out in penalties tonight, I won't be feeling sorry for plucky England.
Let's talk about Brazil and Mexico. The tournament now feels like we're on the verge of it being Neymar's World Cup, that like most World Cups tend to become ultimately identified with a single individual if that individual rises to the occasion. Neymar's doing that in a couple of different ways, some of it good and some of it bad.
Yes, and there'll be people who might say that Mbappe, I might have a say in that, but I'm hoping that Brazil are my team, so I'm hoping that they will do it. Mexico in the early stages were playing the kind of zip that they played against Germany, but they're dealing with a much more disciplined and organised team. And I think one of the functions of Brazil in this World Cup so far has been a 1994 style discipline and defensive solidity and organisation, which is very promising to see. Although Casemiro now will be banned for the quarterfinal, he's got a second yellow card. You'd expect Fernandinho to come in. Fullbacks were a little bit exposed at times, but when I watched the Mexico-Germany game, I felt that Mexico, despite going ahead with Lozano, lacked a bit of composure. And despite the zip and the possession they had, they didn't really create that many chances. And once Brazil got into that gear, Neymar, for the first goal, just created the space for William with that beautiful back heel, finished the move. And then Brazil were content to sit back and then hit them on the break for the second goal. And I think Brazil have been playing within themselves since the kind of tricky opener against Switzerland. And I don't think Belgium can beat Brazil and France. They might beat Brazil. They could beat maybe one of them. I can't see them beating both of them. And I'd be confident that Brazil will be able to flourish. I'm a bit more relaxed than everybody else about Neymar's antics. I find it a bit humorous more, so I'm more amused than outraged, I would have to say. It's almost like you go fishing for the first time. I've never gone fishing, but if you imagine you go fishing and it's not like Donald Trump here, and you catch an electric eel, and it's that's almost like what I saw when I saw Neymar just riding around. I said, what's happened to Neymar? I kind of caught it late. I didn't realize what had happened, and he's just riding around like something, in the River Shannon. It was I just found it funny, actually, but the outrage is almost making me laugh as well, because you have all the memes going around now of Neymar riding around the world and all that kind of stuff, which I got on WhatsApp last night. But I wonder, is it a bit tactical? I wonder, are they trying to do this to put it in the minds of referees to just not protect him, but
well. I mean, in fairness, someone did break his back literally in the last tournament, where there was a fairly laissez-faire attitude towards heavy tackles in the group stages, and it was brilliant. It led to a World Cup where you felt like the game was being allowed to flow, but then somebody literally broke Neymar's back and Brazil crashed out of the tournament. So if you're Brazil and you're trying to come up with some way to protect your best assets, then maybe this type of histrionics is exactly what you're going to do.
I think there might be a bit of method in the madness. Here. Neymar, I think he came out and said that people are just trying to undermine him by what they're saying. And Mark Clattenburg, I was watching ITV's coverage, and Mark Clattenburg, who was watching it, said it was a red card, that he was, that he was trod upon. So there can be a little bit of boy cried wolf about Neymar, but he's coming through the World Cup, even though he was the most foul player, I think, in the first two matches. I think he's coming through the World Cup pretty unscathed. I suppose what would be interesting to see with Brazil now, does Firmino get in the team? Came on and scored. Jesus hasn't really caught it yet. But I think the thing about Brazil is it's not about Neymar and the world on his shoulders as it was 4 years ago. There are other players in the team now, like Coutinho, like Willian, like Jesus, if and when it happens for him, and a very good solid defence, Silva and Miranda leading that are all punching above, and that will give Brazilian supporters a lot of confidence going forward that they can take Belgium. But Belgium will surely be better than they were last night. Surely.
Just one last point on Neymar, John. Like, maybe there's just a possibility that he loves this. Maybe he just loves play acting. Maybe he loves riding around on the ground. He just needs to get it out of his system at certain intervals in the game. Kind of like Granit Xhaka feels the need to fire a ball 40 yards over the bar from 40 yards away from the goal at a couple of intervals during the game. Maybe he's just addicted to this, and he just loves the feeling of riding around on the ground and loves the feeling that he's going to exact some sort of justice on a person who may or may not have trodden his ankle.
There is an indulgence. There is a narcissistic streak, obviously, there, and it's funny, when Firmino scored, he went over to Neymar, and the team went over to Neymar like Neymar had scored.
Yeah.
So there's even in the presser, Chichi was extolling the virtues of Neymar, and then might throw in a little bit of a rub. Just maybe you don't want to be doing the diving or the histrionics, but that's like a tiny coat of paint. They know how good he is, and as I said, and I've said after watching him close up against Serbia, and I said this guy is out of this world. He's an out of this world footballer. He is a class footballer to watch up close. It is an absolute gift to watch someone like Neymar play football, and that is the difference at the World Cup. Only France really are the only other team that I've seen as well organised and as decent as Croatia are. France are the only other team that have that extra level that they can go to in the tournament, and that's why I think Brazil and France, if they do meet in the semi-final, could be the real final. Yeah, it could be a real classic as well. I mean, Brazil France, you think of the game in '86. That's one of my first World Cup memories. Just the colour of the footage from Mexico. The two shirts were absolutely perfect. It's Platini against Careca. It's sensational stuff, and if we get one more of those, it'd be great as well. Tommy has reminded us here of the Mauricio Pochettino comments from earlier in the season. Football is about trying to trick your opponent, yes or no? Tactic, what does tactic mean? When you do tactics, it's to try and trick the opponent. You play in the right, but you finish in the left. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we all congratulate the player when he tricks the referee like this.
That is the football that I was in love with when I was a child. Yes, in Argentina, but in England too. You believe that in England you were honest and always perfect. No.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference. The process of trying to trick the referee is rampant in the World Cup. There is a reason why we're singling out Neymar, and that is due to the fact that when he got his ankle trod upon yesterday, he rolled around for a while, and he saw that there was an assistant manager in his way, so he moved his body out of the way and started rolling around again. It is hilarity. It is pure comic gold. It is, and as John said, the indulgence by Chiche and his teammates, oh God, is Neymar happy over there? The guilt from Roberto Firmino when he scored yesterday was tangible, and like maybe referees need to start treating Neymar like you treat a baby from 4 to 6 months. Just let him cry it out. Just, you know, don't listen to the intercom. Turn the intercom off. Let him roll around and cry all he wants, and maybe he'll stop. Maybe that's the best way, because it is a blight on the game. He can dive all he wants. It is the histrionics after that. That is the difference here. It's not the process of tricking the referee. It is the pointless nature of what he does after that, because essentially Mexico would have suffered a red card yesterday had he not writhed around in pain. Well, there would have been more of a likelihood of it anyway, I feel.
Well, just on that, the referee for the Uruguay-Portugal game was brilliant in that. He ignored all of that. He's a 34-year-old Mexican young referee, just said, lads, just get on with it. I'm not interested in your play acting. And it made for quite an edgy but a really free-flowing game. And I think the players knew, it's almost like a hurling final. I always thought the hurling final last year was beautifully refereed. Can't remember the Tipperary man's name who did it off the top of my head, Galway against Waterford. But he just let it flow. Uruguay, Portugal, just let it flow. And I think sometimes if you get involved early doors, flashing cards, and to be fair to the referees, I think they've been quite lenient to the World Cup so far, and they have let it flow. But if you can just ignore it, then I think the players will actually, if you don't show the baby attention, then, or the child attention, then they just get on with it. And then I think that might be the lesson that needs to be learned going forward.
Fergal Horgan was the referee.
That's right, yeah.
Tommy's also suggesting that it's a bit like Rivaldo in the World Cup in 2002 against Turkey, which leads to a conflagration and several players getting red cards when he gets hit on the knee with the ball and like he's been shot in the head back and to the left.
There's a difference there, as in Rivaldo was successful.
Oh, totally, yeah. It worked out perfectly. Whereas
Neymar, his play acting has led to a lack of success. In fact, it's gone the other way. Mexico.
Well, because now they have VAR. It's like, ultimately, no one's going to get sent off for doing something that they don't deserve to get sent off. So it's not almost like he doesn't understand the technology. John, we're going to let you go. One last question for you. Who's going to win the game between England and Colombia tonight, and what way will England find to lose it?
I'm going, lads. So I'll be reporting back in tomorrow morning from the Spartak Stadium, which is a great stadium. It'll be a great atmosphere there. I've heard that the English fans are not wearing any shirts. They want to keep a low profile. So I'm sure they'll turn up outside the metro. It's actually outside of the metro station, the stadium. So I'm looking forward to it. Met a Colombian fan yesterday in his full tracksuit, head to toe, which is quite funny because I was wearing a Russian army cap and he thought I was Russian and he wanted to take a photo with me. That was funny, and he was coming over and I was just saying, I'm Irish, mate, and he just goes, Colombia mañana. So that was a funny moment, but I think England are going to do it. I think James is not fully fit. I think that's a big thing. Quintero, Cuadrado, obviously these are dangerous players. Falcao will have a point to prove after flopping in the Premier League after that knee injury he suffered. But I think England, with that high press and the way they played in the first two games, and Harry Kane, I think they can cause Colombia problems.